Hi, and welcome to another episode of the B2B Marketing Podcast. My name is Mani, and today we are with Anthony Blattner, who is the founder and managing director at Speedwork Social. Hi, Anthony. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Moni. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on the show. Finally, we've been going back and forth for a while. I'm glad we were able to get this together.
Absolutely. Today, we're going to talk about LinkedIn ads because you specialize in LinkedIn ads. But can you please introduce yourself for the audience?
Sure. So my name's Anthony. I lead Speedwork Social. I've been doing LinkedIn marketing for a very long time now. And we just focus on LinkedIn marketing. So I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, a lot of time in the ads platform. I'm one of the certified marketing experts. And then I just finished a couple LinkedIn learning courses. One is B2B marketing on LinkedIn, and the other one is LinkedIn ad tips and tricks. So probably by the time that this goes live, those courses will all both be out there on LinkedIn Learning. So yeah, I just spend a lot of time on LinkedIn.
All right. Awesome. So let's dig in with kind of the newest big format of LinkedIn, which are thought leader ads. What are your thoughts about this format? Is it really as revolutionary as many people say? And which are your favorite use cases of this format?
Yeah, so thought leader ads have been an awesome format to have. I think it just opens up so many opportunities for so many different people. Because when you're forced to run ads from a company page, you're just kind of limited in what you can do. And it's kind of been something we've been asking for a long time, and it just makes a lot of sense. The purpose of most advertising in the B2B world is to eventually connect with a person, to maybe have a consultation call or start a trial. Most B2B sales start with a phone call. So this kind of just cuts out a step in the process and allows you to connect a person's voice directly with the target audience, not have to go through a company. And I guess I should start by introducing and explaining thought leader ads. On LinkedIn, previously, you could only run ads from a company page. Now you can boost posts from individuals. They're called thought leader ads, but really it's just boosting a post from a person. Is it revolutionary? I think it improves advertising on LinkedIn a lot, both for the advertiser and also for the end user. Because the reason most people go on LinkedIn is to read posts, to catch up, see what's happening in their space, learn from others, and they want to read from other people, not just companies. So it's great from that aspect. And then on the performance side of things, thought leader ads get much higher engagement rates than any other ad format. So that allows you to bid a lot lower and get a lot cheaper costs, which improves your performance across the board when that happens. LinkedIn ads typically has the stereotype of being very expensive. This helps to start lowering that floor and start improving their performance because you can get cheaper costs and all that good stuff. So that's kind of the quick rundown on thought leader ads.
Yeah, that's really excellent. Like, how do you, in which part of the funnel do you tend to run thought leader ads? It's like top of funnel, or is it like in other all parts of the funnel?
I would have given you like a specific answer like a few months ago. And nowadays it's like, man, you can use those anywhere in the funnel. And in fact, we've kind of started just taking it the next step and running almost like full funnel strategies for certain people and for certain businesses that are just using thought leader ads. So kind of not running any company page ads and just running all boosted posts. And what you can start to do is, I'll kind of explain it a little bit, is if you think about your standard marketing funnel, you have your top of the funnel, maybe that's more of your cold traffic. Your middle of funnel, maybe somebody knows about you, has engaged a couple times, and then your bottom of funnel, usually your more direct offers, people that are warmer traffic, maybe they know a lot more about you, they're more interested. So thought leader ads are great because in the top of the funnel, just thought leader ads get so much higher engagement and dwell time, which is a new metric LinkedIn rolled out maybe a year ago. And dwell time is really the key because the whole point of running marketing is you want people to learn about what you're doing, to consume your message, and then ideally take next steps. And we see that dwell time with thought leader ads is like multiples higher than a standard company page. And it goes back to that fact of people want to hear what other people are doing out there. And, most of the time, the average person will see a thought leader ad and not even know it's an ad. They'll just think it's like another post in their feed. So really, they're just kind of reading the content that's out there. So number one is that dwell time in the top of the funnel. These posts just get read more, and that just helps the whole rest of the funnel because your traffic is learning more about you. And then you can do all the normal ad functions with retargeting. So, hey, somebody clicked on your first post. Maybe somebody watched your video. Maybe somebody went to your website. Now you can start to retarget those people in the middle of the funnel. Maybe that's where you start to introduce your webinars you're promoting or whatever a middle of funnel or next step is going to be. We have promoted lots of webinars with thought leader ads. And again, it's great, especially if the person who's going to be the speaker of that webinar is the one promoting the post. Just kind of creates a very continuous journey for the user. They're going to see that person talking about the upcoming webinar, and then they get to join and hear from that person on the webinar. So it creates a lot more stickiness and memory recall from the prospect. So thought leader ads have been great. And then getting in the bottom of the funnel, I think this is probably where maybe they've been the least used or figured out on LinkedIn. But just like any other type of offer that you might run, you can drive traffic using thought leader ads. You can put links in the posts. And maybe the trick, or it's not a trick anymore, but whenever you're posting on LinkedIn, the algorithm, the organic algorithm does not like if you have links in your post. So maybe initially you post that post without the link, and then a couple of days later you go back and you edit your post and you add the link in, and then boom, then you boost it as a thought leader ad, and it can keep running. So you haven't really lost too much of that organic traffic, and then you have enhanced it with adding that link so that people can then click on your post and then go to that link afterwards. And then something that I like that LinkedIn does is if you say it's an image post and you have a link in there, if the viewer clicks on anywhere on that image, they'll be taken to that link. So it definitely helps boost the traffic through to that landing page. So that's the full funnel approach with thought leader ads. And yeah, they've been very effective. And some of it might be for like the right type of business, like a consultant type of business or a consulting business. Makes a lot of sense to put the people front and center. But really, these can apply to like almost any kind of business.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I just want to return to a few of your points. Like, yeah, it's very important to judge the ads, the thought leader ads with dwell time, because like the click-through rate is essentially how good the hook is at hooking the person, right? It doesn't tell you so much about how much the people actually consume the message. So that's a really good point.
And it's very interesting that if you might compare certain ad formats on LinkedIn, or just certain posts, you might find the example I give a lot is document ads can get very high engagement rates, but not necessarily the dwell time you might expect them to get. Mm-hmm. So before dwell time came out, you would see like document ads. Oh wow, the engagement rate's so high. And you might think that's really good, and you might over-index on that. But then you realize now that dwell time's out there, like, oh, it's like in your newsfeed, it's almost hard to not engage with a document ad on mobile because it just takes up the whole thing, and you can just swipe and touch it. So, yeah, definitely. Like sometimes ads can be almost too engaging in the hook. But really, it's about, are they sitting there and reading the whole thing? And that's where dwell time comes in. So yes, don't over-index on engagement rate. The algorithm always does that. So you got to keep tabs on your ads and make sure you're optimizing for dwell time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you mentioned running webinar ads as a middle funnel play. I'm just wondering, like, do you have recommendations in terms of how to get people to subscribe to a webinar? Is it better if it is a LinkedIn event? Is it better if it's like an external platform? Do you have any best practices on that?
Yeah, we've done a lot of both. I like kind of taking both avenues, and also the nice thing about thought leader ads is you can post several times, then boost all these different versions, and you can see what's going to work the best.
Yeah.
For most people want to have registrations on their own webinar platform so they can get that contact info. But why not create the LinkedIn event for that to get a little bit more organic impressions out of that? So it's almost like why not do the LinkedIn event? Not many downsides to creating that LinkedIn event. But yeah, you can do it both ways, and you can post several times. You can boost them all and kind of see what works best.
Mm-mm. Yeah, that's excellent. And like,
do you have any preferences or any thoughts?
Well, I mean, for me personally, I like to put them to the external platform so that, like you can actually send them some emails so that they can actually come to the webinar, right? to actually increase the show up rate. And obviously you get to other people to your CRM, but I didn't think about doing both actually. So that's a good idea.
Yeah,
I like it. And like, okay, full funnel thought leader ads. So it means that you're going to have to speak about your product in your thought leader ads, right?
Yes, you got to promote yourself. The things to think about, it's like the nuance of writing your post becomes very important when you're going to boost it. Of course, anytime you put ad dollars behind anything, yes, you want to critique your creative to the next level to make sure it's going to be good. But the thing to think about is often when you see organic posts in your newsfeed, usually organically, it shows a little bit more content than when you boost it. So you'll see maybe 3 to 5 lines or so when you see an organic post in your newsfeed, but when you boost it, it actually cuts that down. And it cuts it down to usually the first line break or about 150 characters. It seems like this is always kind of changing on LinkedIn's end and depends what platform you're on and a lot of variables. But to be safe, usually about 150 characters or the first line break. So you'll see a lot of people who just write like the start of one line and then do a line break. But now you've cut off where that read more button is going to be, and you've kind of lost a lot of that preview text that's going to show up. So I like to have longer first lines and put my 150 characters there because that's what I need. I want to use a certain hook to get someone's attention. And I also want to make it clear enough that somebody is not going to click on my post without knowing what they're clicking on. This gets to be a little nuanced, but again, back to the engagement rate thing is thought leader ads are very clicky. People, they get much higher engagement rates. So, people will click on them very often. So you just want to minimize unintentional clicks of people who didn't really want to click on whatever your post was about. So putting enough info in that intro part that it's clear what you're talking about, what they're going to read more about, that really improves the performance of your boosted thought leader ad.
Love it. But would you recommend immediately plugging in your product within this first 150 character limit, or would you more put it after?
Yeah, maybe not necessarily. And it would kind of depend on which type of post you're planning to do for this. And very often sitting down to plan out, what are going to be your colder posts versus what are going to be more of your warm retargeting posts. You might think about it differently for each of those. So you might have some posts where you talk more about the story or the problem or whatever that's going to be. But there's just little things you can do in the writing that hints at what you're eventually going to be talking about. There was one example I was critiquing today from somebody else, and they were doing security devices. That they sold security devices and software. And of course, there's lots of places you could use this. There was schools, there was facilities and stuff like that. And the post I was looking at, it talked about basically the emergency health savings, or you can detect if someone's getting hurt and you can help them if you have the right security devices. But the intro text of the post kind of just talked about the health factor, and you would have no idea the rest of this post included anything about electronics or devices. So when I gave that feedback, I was most people are probably just clicking on this thinking you're talking about healthcare topics. And they were like, you're right. Some of the comments we got and stuff like that are just not anything to do with tech. And I'm yeah, just because this intro part, you think you're going to be talking about emergency services or something like that, but not necessarily the tech part. So, this is the nuance of copywriting is how can you say it in a way that leads people into the point that you're trying to get to. So yeah, for your colder ads, you might talk more about the problem. And then as you plan out what's going to be your retargeting ads, you might lead more with the product, or, if you're going to attach an image, maybe the image shows the product or something like that in it.
On revient dans le podcast dans 15 secondes. Est-ce que tu savais que les podcasts grandissaient principalement grâce au bouche à oreille? Si le podcast Marketing B2B t'apporte de la valeur, alors envoie un épisode à un de tes amis ou collègues marketeurs et laisse un avis 5 étoiles sur Apple Podcast et Spotify. Yeah, excellent. You briefly mentioned funnels. Like, could you share a little bit about your philosophy regarding LinkedIn ads funnels in terms of which kind of content you would put in different parts of the funnel and ad formats as well that you prefer?
Yeah, that's a good question. Another one of the great things about thought leader ads is if you do videos and selfie videos, it's like one of the best ways to just get more FaceTime with people. So I really love using that as a format. Selfie videos, number one, just get a lot of attention. Everyone's used to scrolling social media and watching selfie videos. And there's just a lot of studies that faces, and especially when someone's looking at the camera, is like one of the most attention grabbing thing that you can put on a screen. So selfie videos are great. They get much longer watch times than any other kind of video. And especially as a thought leader ad, people just assume they're watching a video from a person. They don't think it's an ad necessarily. Compared to like if that was in a company page post, they would start to watch it, but then they would glance up, they'd see its company page post, and they would be more likely to keep scrolling because they're like, oh, this is an ad. So I really love video. But otherwise, a lot of image posts and then also a lot of text only posts. And maybe not a lot of people think about this if you're planning to boost, but I've definitely seen a big difference of like if you attach an image to any post, it tends to get on average, depends on the content, but on average, it gets less dwell time if you have an image because they're like, oh, this is something marketing related. Mm-hmm. Any image you're going to attach adds a little bit of like a red flag to somebody like, oh, this could be marketing related. But if you just have text only, for whatever reason, people are used to reading text only posts and assuming this is much less likely to be marketing related, or they're just more likely to read that. So that's been an interesting thing that I've seen in the data is that text only posts get a lot longer read time back to 12 time. So I do like to use those cold to the colder audiences because I know it's more likely people are going to read these. Really, I kind of play around with a lot of different things and different types of the different spots of the funnel. But I think the simplest funnel that I could kind of give you is you have your cold and your retargeting layers. Your cold layer, you're going to talk more about the problem or talk more about the audience. And the point of the post is to lead somebody into that next step, maybe introducing your product or service. And then, ideally getting them to take the next step, but knowing that probably all isn't going to happen in one single post and one single impression. So you're then going to go retarget people and then, ideally take them to the next step. So what I like to do is have your cold layer, and what I often find like the best thing just like across the board tends to be a good case study. Everyone has seen the people that post on LinkedIn and they're like, here's how we achieved XYZ result and here's what you can learn and, how you can do this, for your company. Like people love that on LinkedIn. Like that's why people are on LinkedIn. It's like learn tips and tricks that they can take back to their job and get better. So those are some of the best posts. And you got to write it with the mindset, with the point POV of like, here's what we achieved and here's how you can achieve it and how I'm going to teach you how to do it. There's lots of wrong ways to do case studies that are just like, look at us. People aren't going to read all that. So format in like we're going to teach you how to do XYZ type of case study. I think those are great to lead with across the board. Like there's lots that can work, but across the board, like that tends to always work. And then I like to then retarget that. And then I start to talk more about the business or the person or what are we promoting at that point. But I like to do it with a mixture of content. So I like to have, you might be talking about various topics or, thought leadership content pieces. You might be introducing videos. So you might be sharing other case studies. Like if you test these long enough, you might find, oh, this one case study we have is the best one. Like that one always gets the most comments. That's probably going to be your best cold ad to promote. And then as you retarget, that's where you're going to have your other case studies running there. And that's where like, okay, these other ones maybe weren't as great as that first one, but it starts to build more of a case of like, we have a repeatable process. You can see other types of businesses that have gotten results working with us and kind of just build that understanding for somebody. So I like more case studies. more thought leadership things. You might send people to various blog posts that you have. I really like using podcast clips at this point. Like if you've done any number of podcasts or things like that, or like LinkedIn Lives or anything, those are all can make for really good clips. And this goes back to the FaceTime component of it. Is you just get more FaceTime with people, and then once you've retargeted somebody and they've seen 10 of your videos, they're like, I know you at this point. Yeah. So, I just kind of bring this up. Like, there's been times where people are like, I've seen all your videos. And you're like if you get on a sales call and someone's like, I've seen all your videos, you're like, great. This is going to be a great sales call.
Absolutely.
So I really like to retarget with more videos, blog posts, various things here. And then your third layer is going to be your offer posts. And then this is where, you're going to go direct, like, hey, what are we offering? We're going to offer an audit, or are we going to offer a consultation? Are we going to offer a free trial? These can be much more direct. At this point, someone's had 2 touch points with you. Set up your retargeting. So first touch gets retargeted into the second touch, and then second touch gets retargeted into the third touch. And then this is where you start to introduce your offers and, what are we offering? Audits, consultations, demos, trials, and then pushing people to those links to wherever they're going to go to sign up. I really also like to, have different posts that might say DM me for more info, or even, comment gated posts. Usually the second touch of that, first or second touch at this point, to do comment gated posts of, hey, we have this new guide, comment, and I'll send it over to you. If you find one of those that work well, then boosting it is a great use of ad dollars, because you can get a lot more leverage out of it. But that's the funnel in a nutshell. And then as you think about your retargeting, you'd like to, I like to make sure that people are continuing to see my content campaigns, and then also my offer campaigns. You want to be careful not to put it all in one campaign, and then you might just have one ad that kind of dominates and steals all the impressions. So separating it out into a couple different campaigns so that they can all make sure that they're delivering impressions and you're getting both of those messages out there, your content, and then also your offers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is really fascinating. And in every campaign, would you recommend to put several ads in every campaign so that you get to test and rotate these, or can people just do one campaign and one ad?
Yeah, I mean the simplest setup is that you have the cold campaign, you have the retargeting, you have the cold campaign, you have retargeting content, and then you have retargeting offer. That's the simplest setup. And then inside of those, you might have multiple ads inside of those, and usually for the cold campaign, I like to use optimize rotation, but then keeping an eye on it to make sure the right one's getting picked. Because you get a benefit, the higher your engagement rate, the cheaper you can bid, all that good stuff. But then once you get into retargeting, that's where I like to use even rotation and make sure, because then I want to be delivering multiple angles. And it kind of depends. If you have higher ad budgets or just more content, then I might start separating it out into, maybe I have my podcast campaign, maybe I have my blog post campaign, maybe I have my case studies campaign, so that I can make sure that those messages are getting delivered and all that good stuff. So then you might have multiple ads inside of each of those, but then you at least know, okay, I know some case study ads are going to be out there. I know some blog ads are going to be out there. And then finally, in your offer campaign, you might have multiple offers. And sometimes it's interesting where over time, I have lots of campaigns that have been running for a while, you might see one ad starts to get more engagement. And then for whatever reason, 2 weeks later, this other one starts to get a lot more engagement. And it kind of just cycles through that way. So yeah, those are some thoughts on how I usually organize the ads and the campaigns.
Yeah, super, super interesting. Okay, let's switch topics. Conversation ads and message ads returned in EU. So lots of my customers are a bit curious about these formats. I've started to experiment those, but do you have any best practice and advice on how to run them?
First is a question. So do people in the EU now hate message ads because they didn't have them for the longest time, but now they've been popping up and getting all these messages? So I just wonder, do people in the EU hate these new message ads that are now popping up?
Kind of, because most people running these ads don't run them really well. It's there is this school I know nothing about. Hey, we think we could be a really good fit for our MBA. And okay, guys, I don't know you. I don't care about you. Why are you sending this ad to me? So yeah, but on the other hand, they tend to work really well when you run them against the right audience. So I think
they can definitely be a very effective format. I love to use them in conjunction with thought leader ads if it's possible, because the thought leader ad is coming from a person. And then for the message and convo ad, you can have that also come from a person. And if that's the same person, boom, that creates a whole level of memory recall that someone's like, I've been seeing all your posts. Then boom, I got your message. Great. That really helps with like engagement. So if you can align that, that's can be very effective. But yeah, convo ads and message ads, the thing that I think everyone like has been feeling, but maybe just is like LinkedIn used to be all about all the connection requests and messages you would get out there and in-mails and all that stuff. LinkedIn's definitely been tightening the limits on those a lot over the last couple of years. So, and you've probably noticed that you've been getting a lot less of those. maybe not. I don't know. But I know I have seen a lot less, and other people have reported seeing a lot less. And really, that's opening up space in the inbox for now people to use conversation ads. And it makes sense from LinkedIn's end. They're like, yeah, you got to pay for this if you want to be doing this. So you got to pay for the combo ad or message ad. So LinkedIn's been creating a lot of space for it. So there's a lot of relatively new space now for this. And they can be a very effective format because you can write a lot in a convo ad or a message ad. It's almost like a cold email that you would send. So you can write a lot there. But yeah, they're great for like bottom of funnel type of offers. They're great for invite style of offers, and there's a lot of ways you can use them.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a kind of the difference between conversation ads and message ads. I think conversation ads we can put like several CTAs, while with message ads you cannot. I think it's this kind of the difference, right?
Yes. Message ads are like the V1 of sponsored messaging on LinkedIn. They're very simple, but that's also a benefit sometimes. If you're just delivering a simple offer, sometimes message ads are going to be your better bet because there's less bells and whistles on it. There's less things to distract people. And there's a extra CTA on it, which is if you click on the message, there'll be a CTA at the top, a CTA button, and then a CTA button at the bottom, usually. So there is a benefit of having an extra CTA buttons. They do tend to be good converting for just very simple and direct offers. Once you start to get to more complex offers, maybe you're offering free trials and you need to explain the product or service a little bit more. That's where conversation ads might be your friend. And with conversation ads, yeah, you can give it you can list out a couple different CTA buttons. You can just give it one and be similar to a message ad, or you can give it multiple CTA buttons. And it can be beneficial to build out like a build your own adventure path. But for most, it's like, I want my main CTA button and then I want my learn more button, basically. You also don't want to give people too many options, or else they don't click on anything. So usually whatever your main CTA is, maybe it's a form, or maybe you go to a web page and then a learn more button. And that learn more button might kind of expand on who you are, what you do, or whatever it is that you want to convey. So it's kind of a chance to send almost two message ads in one is like the benefit of that. But yeah, kind of depends on the offer. Simpler ones, message ads might perform better. And then more complicated messages that you want to convey, maybe conversation ads are your friend.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. And now let's come to the next, to the last topic of the day, which is conversion API tracking. Like, which kind of the setups prove the most beneficial for your customers?
Yeah. So it all depends on what tools we're working with. But if we're assuming the client has like a CRM, HubSpot and Salesforce are like the most common ones out there. So, and those integrate the best with LinkedIn. Specifically, HubSpot, I think, has some like the best integrations out there and just makes everything very easy. But if you're using one of those two, I like to have the revenue attribution report set up. This is a big picture view in terms of engagement on LinkedIn. Are people who are seeing impressions and engaging with ads, are they eventually turning into pipeline and turning into deals? It's not a perfect attribution system. It can tend to seem like it takes a lot of credit for things because it's just a one POV, one point of view attribution system. So all LinkedIn sees is like, hey, we delivered impressions and clicks with this audience, and then they closed. So we're going to call it pipeline and close one. It's good just to have that. Like before that dashboard existed, there's just so much loss of tracking in the middle there because B2B marketing takes a long time. Lots of it involves reaching one person who sends your ad to another person who then switches devices when they get home. And then just lots of things get lost in tracking that your UTMs are not going to catch. So it's nice to be able to have this dashboard to see that visibility. But then taking it a step further, love to have whatever conversion events tracked that we can. LinkedIn's insight tag and website actions make it all very handy now. And then for anything that's like offline conversion tracking, that's where CAPI is also very handy. So say like HubSpot's great because it does a lot of this built in, but say we're using a different CRM and maybe say like ActiveCampaign, for example. I don't think they have a native integration. So for say you're using ActiveCampaign or Pipedriver, one of those, and say you have a deal in your pipeline and that deal moves from stage 1 to stage 2, it'd be great to track that. So you can send a signal back to LinkedIn to say this deal progressed or this lead progressed. Call that a conversion. So using the CAPI is a great way to be able to do that. You can use Zapier to be able to trigger that. So I know like Pipedriver actually have all those. Like you can have triggers for deal moves in the pipeline, and then I want to trigger this event to LinkedIn to call it a conversion. So that's just kind of like a very common use case. There's lots of other things you can do for it. And then you like when that deal moves, you'll send the contact info and the deal info to LinkedIn, and then it'll attempt to match that. So that's CAPI. And then if you want to get really advanced with it, then there's some interesting new tools that are out there these days. Hockey Stack and Dream Data are a couple of them where they kind of take this to the next level. And just like how LinkedIn's revenue attribution report will tell you that pipeline impact, LinkedIn's tool is just from the LinkedIn point of view, but Hockey Stack and Dream Data you can plug in Google, you can plug in organic search, you can plug in email platforms, whatever you want. And you can start to build out that journey flow so you can kind of see all the different touch points in a line. I think those are super handy to have and look at, and just kind of gives you more visibility into the whole process.
Yeah. This is excellent. Yeah, like thanks for sharing all these insights during this interview. It has been like super interesting for me and for the audience.
Of course, I can talk LinkedIn all day.
I can see that. So where can the audience know more about you and your company?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm the only Anthony Blattner on LinkedIn, so feel free to look me up, say hi on LinkedIn. I try to share various tips and tricks of things that I learn and see and try out day to day on LinkedIn. So I'm always trying to share good posts. I have one that's coming out tomorrow about how to generate LinkedIn ads with ChatGPT's new image generation API.
Right.
So if you want to check that out, it'll be a whole video post and all that good stuff.
Excellent.
It's coming up with some pretty good stuff. So go check that out and play around with it. But you can find me on LinkedIn.
All right. Awesome, Anthony. I'm going to put the link to your profile on the podcast description.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for having me, Moni.
Yeah.
It was great to finally get this done and catch up.
Absolutely.
And I hope you have a great time in Bangkok.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.